Podcasting might be delayed today due to unforeseen occupants of my recording spot. I think I might have to wake her. Can I justify waking the cat just for a podcast? Can I? Hi everyone, and welcome to the Fishhead Creations podcast, where I pull out one of my interesting knitting projects every time and talk you through the details. Today I'm awkwardly perched in the front corner of my usual recording seat because Solveig decided to join me and not give up her seat. And Loki is also quite awake, and you will have seen him in the intro. He actually tried to eat the jumper I'm going to talk about after I took that bit of video. But I thought it might be quite fun to just have the cat in the background and the other cat running around. He might join me as well. They are awake because it's finally cooled down. We have some glorious grey skies and rain, and it really feels quite autumnal, and I'm so happy. I can wear my wool jumpers again. I can knit again without melting under the heat of a garment on my knees. And yeah, I'm really quite happy about all that. So, today's project is my Diamond Valley sweater. This is a pattern by Simone Jo Jacobsen, who is a young Danish designer. She is actually a physicist, I think. And she started designing knitting patterns on the side. And I was lucky enough to test knit this jumper earlier in the year, but it has since been published and is available on Ravelry. So I thought it might be... Sorry, the cat just exploded. I thought it might be quite interesting to talk about how the test knitting process went, as well as how the garment is constructed. As you can see, it's a colourwork yoked jumper, but I'm so sorry, it's so loud here today. I have exploding cats, I have an ambulance outside. I apologize, please bear with me. I don't want to close all the windows because it becomes quite sticky. The air becomes so hot, and I just don't like closed windows. I closed this one next to me just because my neighbors tend to be quite crazy, but I left the one over there open. So where was I? Other than the other yoked sweaters I've talked about before, this one doesn't have the colourwork here on top, but around the sleeve and body divide, as you can see here. This gives it a quite interesting shape and fit. But the most interesting thing actually is the yoke itself. This sweater is knit top down, so you start at the ribbing and then do quite a few short rows here in the back, just to raise the neckline and make it sit higher in the neck and lower in the front, just so it doesn't choke you. What Simone did very cleverly in this jumper is she hid her increases, which happen quite rapidly and drastically in 3 places. She hid them in a row of purl stitches. So if you increase this much, you might get quite a few holes in your fabric, and by doing it in a row of purl stitches, it's hidden under the purl bumps, so those holes from increasing aren't as noticeable, which I think is quite a clever decision Simone made here. And she also included, which I haven't seen anywhere before, and which makes it fit very well, she included a few short rows on top of the sleeves. So just before you split for body and sleeves, or just before you start the color work, which partly is done before you split it for body and sleeves, you do a few short rows just over here to give you a bit more moving space around your arms. Really fits very, very well. And then yeah, you have this very nice band of color work. It's actually 3 different colors in the color work. I used very closely related shades of grey and natural whites, but it gives this kind of glow effect you're usually used to from traditional Farai patterns. And she had other test knitters, and she also did another version herself, where all 3 colorwork colors were quite different, and it looked great. So then, I actually can't really remember if there's any waist shaping. I don't think so. So because of the colorwork, which does pull in a little bit here, you have the impression of waist shaping without actual decreases to your stitch count, because it's just a slightly bit tighter than the plain stockinette one color fabric below. You can see it flares out a little bit, even though the stitch count is pretty much the same. And then, yeah, just simple 2x2 ribbing at the bottom and on the sleeves as well. Well, I did the body first and then the sleeves, just because I don't really like knitting sleeves before the body. I don't really like having the body on a needle, on a span needle, just dangling around. But there are some decreases hidden in this part of the colourwork, and then you decrease further down here, which I slightly modified. She calls for you to start decreasing just after the colourwork and then decreases down quite rapidly at the rate you can see here. And I just knit a bit more plain fabric before I started the decreases, and then I did, I think, 2 more decreases than she called for on the pattern, because I wanted longer sleeves. We've already talked about how I want my sleeves to fit. This jumper actually fits quite well. When I stretch my arms, the sleeves come up to here. Even if I have my arms up and I'm moving them around, my wrists are still completely covered and the base of my hand is covered, and keeps me quite warm. So this is what I wanted, so I lengthened the sleeves quite a bit to what she calls for, and I also lengthened the body to what she calls for, because this is, of course, knit in Holst Super Soft again, which shrinks with washing. So I think my final dimensions are pretty much what Simone calls for in the pattern, but I think I knit an additional 5 centimeters at least in the body. This was actually the first garment where I ever measured how much the yarn shrinks, because it was a test knit. So what else? I think that's pretty much the basic construction. You have quite a lot of room in the shoulders, which I like. It does sometimes ride up in the front, just because the colourwork fabric is tight and it sits around where my bust area starts to be a bit more voluminous. So sometimes it rides up here, but really you can just pull it down. It's just when I sit down, and whenever I get up again I pull it down a little, and it fits really well as long as I'm not sitting down. So it's quite nice. I really like it. It's nice to have one garment in my collection that's rather loose fitting, a bit oversized in some dimensions, especially at the waist, because my waist to full bust circumference ratio has quite a lot of difference. So it's quite loose fitting already in the shoulders, and then in the waist it's quite a bit of positive ease, which is good to have for a change. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. There were some things that didn't really work out. Well, they worked well in the pattern, but it was the first draft and she was an inexperienced designer at that point. So we had quite interesting discussions about some things. What this pattern does include is you have a few more stitches in the front than you have in the back. So just to give you a bit more room in the front, which most of us need. And I'm sorry, I'll be back in a second, because this one is stealing all the things from the table over there. So he has to join me for a moment. And I can just talk about the test knitting process. Weg. Nee, wo ist Nee, weg hier. Weg hier. Setz dich hin. So, as I said, it was a test knit I did for Simone. And quite an interesting experience, because we really chatted a lot about the construction of the garment, and she wanted to keep the few more stitches. I don't know, we talked about 2 stitches, but I think it was on one side, so maybe 4 more stitches in the front than in the back. We talked about it quite a lot, because I'm a sucker for symmetry, and the way she had written it first didn't lead to a symmetrical garment. So yeah, it took us quite a bit of thinking about it to get it to a place where it was symmetrical, but still kept the few stitches more in the front and in the back. It was quite interesting just to talk so much about garment construction, not destruction, all while knitting it and just running into those problems Loki is under the sofa, putting his claws into the sofa from the bottom and sliding around. Yes, he's crazy. Really crazy. Well, it's a crazy podcasting day, obviously. Yeah, so it was quite interesting, and it really got me started to think about what I like in garment shapes and what details I really want in my garments. Just how they influence the fit of things. It's quite distracting, Loki. He doesn't care. So yeah, it really got me into test knitting more, and I've done a few more test knits. Another sweater and a few smaller things and accessories since then, and it really was a great experience. I'm so sorry. This will be the most incoherent episode I did so far. But yeah, that's how things go when you have cats around. Where was I? So yeah, all those details were quite fun and interesting in this jumper, and it was so much fun to be the first person to knit from a new pattern. As I'm a very, very quick knitter, I was also usually the first person to get to the next point in the pattern, so just the start of the color work or whatever, splitting body and sleeves. So usually it was me and Simone discussing the problems, and the others just being confused by what we're talking about. But it was so interesting, it was so great, and she's just a wonderful person. So if this jumper is appealing to you, go ahead and buy it. It's a great pattern, it's a lot of fun to knit, it's only very short repeats and easily rememberable color work, so not much float catching anywhere in it. Also, one more thing I did is I actually went up a needle size for the color work, which I usually don't do, but because it was around the upper arm, where most sleeves fit quite tightly on me, I decided it was worth it. But you see there are some striped sections in here, and I went to the smaller needle size again for those, just to avoid any incoherent fabric. So I knit the main sweater, which was written for I think 24 stitches per 10 centimeters on 3 millimeters, and then went up to 3.25 millimeters for just the colorwork sections, and then back down to 3 millimeters for the striped sections. But I might be lying. You could just, if you're interested in how much difference between the needle sizes I had, just have a look at my project pages. I'm pretty sure I recorded it all there, because it was a test knit and it was well, interesting for Simone to know, just to give good needle size recommendations for her knitters in the pattern, because she herself is quite a loose knitter and I'm a rather tight knitter usually, so probably somewhere in the middle will be the average. I think that's all I have to say about this. I'm sorry for all the cat intervening in this episode. So Vic is staring at me. Yeah, I'm sorry for all the noise and cats in this episode. I hope you at least thought it was quite funny. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Which will probably be a few weeks, because I'm going away on the weekend for 2 weeks to Scotland. I hope to bring back some more yarn and some interesting things. I have a whole jumper planned that I'm designing myself, which I'll at least talk about next time. I hope to get it finished during those 2 to 3 weeks until I record again. But yeah, I'm not sure how much I get done. I do my very best, but at least we'll talk about it next time. And as always, I'd love to hear from you. You can find me on Ravelry as Obsti, which is probably the best way to get in touch with me if you have anything you'd rather like to send a private message about. And I'm Caledoniana on Instagram, where I'm quite active and hope to hear from you, and would love to get into discussions about everything I've talked here, or just leave a comment down below here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back with you soon. Bye. Someone's trying to eat the tripod.